Good afternoon, everybody. Today we are discovering Blackwell, Oklahoma. Blackwell is a city in Kay County, Oklahoma, located at the intersection of U.S. Highway 177 and State Highway 11 along Interstate 35. Blackwell was established following the September 16, 1983 Cherokee Outlet Land Run by A.J. Blackwell. Blackwell has an agricultural and fossil fuel-based economy. Strip land run. On September 16, 1983, the largest land run in history began, with more than 100,000 people pouring into the Cherokee Strip of Oklahoma to claim valuable land that had once belonged to Native Americans. With a single shot from a pistol, the mad dash began, and land-hungry pioneers on horseback and in carriages raced forward to stake their claims to the best acres. Ironically, not many years before that same land had once been considered worthless desert. Early explorers of Oklahoma believed that the territory was too arid and treeless for white settlement, but several suggested it might be the perfect place to resettle Native Americans, whose rich and fertile lands in the southeast were increasingly coveted by Americans. The U.S. government later took this advice and began removing eastern tribes like the Cherokee and Choctaw to Oklahoma Territory in 1817. No more eager than the whites to leave their green and well-watered lands for the arid plains, some Native Americans resisted and were removed by force, most tragically, the 4,000 Cherokee who died during the brutal overland march known appropriately as the Trail of Tears. By 1885, a diverse mixture of Native American tribes had been pushed onto reservations in eastern Oklahoma and promised that the land would be theirs as long as the grass grows and the water runs. Yet, even this seemingly marginal land did not long escape the attention of land-hungry Americans. By the late 19th century, farmers had developed new methods that suddenly made the former reveled plains hugely valuable. Pressure steadily increased to open the native lands to settlement, and in 1889, President Benjamin Harrison succumbed and threw open large areas of unoccupied Native American lands to white settlement. The giant Cherokee Strip Rush was only the largest of a series of massive land runs that began in the 1890s, with thousands of immigrants stampeding into Oklahoma Territory and establishing towns like Norman and Oklahoma City almost overnight. Prior to the Civil Rights Movement, Blackwell had a reputation as a sundown town, having kept out African Americans through violent expulsion and the display of a sign warning them to leave town by sunset. Blackwell's expulsion of its African American residents around 1893 is described in the 1967 book, From Slavery to Freedom, by John Hope Franklin. Blackwell was a victim of the 1955 Great Plains tornado outbreak, a deadly tornado outbreak that struck the southern and central U.S. Great Plains states on May 25th and 26th of 1955. It produced at least 46 tornadoes across 7 states, including 2 F5 tornadoes in Blackwell, Oklahoma, and Udall, Kansas. The outbreak killed 102 from the 3 tornadoes while injuring hundreds more. Unusual electromagnetic activity was observed, including St. Elmo's fire. The Blackwell tornado formed in Noble County before crossing through the eastern portions of the Kay County town of Blackwell as an F5 wedge tornado. It claimed the lives of 20 people in Blackwell and injured over 200 before crossing into and dissipating over Cowley County, Kansas. Along with destroying nearly 200 homes, the tornado demolished 2 of the town's main employers, the Acme Foundry and the Hazel Atlas Glass Plant. 400 homes were destroyed or swept away, and 5 other homes were damaged. 60 businesses were also destroyed, and the local hospital sustained major damage. Most of the western half of the town was spared the worst of the damage. So let's continue driving through the town. What you see here is a brick road, and over to the right will be Blackwell's main water plant. You can see that the houses are in pretty bad shape. The roads here are awful. There's many roads that are still the brick road. Some have been, they've tried to fix them with pavement down the middle of them, but the roads are pretty rough, bumpy, as you can see. Right here's one that has been fixed or patched. In the distance there, you can see a grain elevator, and you find those in almost all towns in Oklahoma. A grain elevator is a facility that's designed to stockpile or store grain. And the term grain elevator describes a tower containing a bucket elevator or pneumatic conveyor, which scoops up grain from a lower level and deposits it into a silo or other storage facility. And interestingly enough, grain elevators were invented in 1842 in Buffalo, New York, to accommodate the large quantities of grain that were being transported through the Erie Canal. What you're about to see now is the Santa Fe Depot, located in Blackwell, and it's a perfect example of the brick depots that were constructed more elegantly for the county seat holders. While it isn't anymore, Blackwell did used to hold the county seat for Kay County in the early 1900s. The construction of the Blackwell Depot started in the summer of 1914 after the plans were accepted. Most of the passenger depots in America closed in the 1970s as train travel steadily declined. While there are no plans for the neglected depot currently, and it continues to sit vacant, there is some interesting action nearby. A defunct train has been placed in a park just near the depot that has become a sort of tourist attraction to those in town and passing through. The engine was presented in 1954 by the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway Company. It was built by Baldwin Locomotive Works and delivered to the railroad company in 1902. Before it was retired, it traveled 1.25 million miles during 50 years of service. Coming up here, you can see part of an old railroad that is still sticking out underneath the actual road that we are driving on. Believe it or not, this is the town's one and only cable company to your left. Up on the right are the City Town Hall offices, and the large building to the left is the local police station. I have a lot of family history in Northwest Oklahoma, and interestingly enough, one of my aunts actually owned this house to the right, this yellow house, and my mom spent quite a bit of time there. I imagine once upon a time, some of these really large homes were absolutely beautiful, and over the years, they've just been abandoned or unkept. And of course, the low income in the area certainly doesn't help the situation, nor does the lack of good employment. Blackwell sits on approximately 5.58 square miles of land and at around 1,014 feet elevation. In 2022, the median home prices were only $78,000 and spent an average of 47 days on the market. The average rental price is $850 to $1,300 a month. Currently, as I videoed this, which was Christmas Day 2022, there are 25 homes for sale and 3 rentals. This grain silo up ahead says, "Welcome to Blackwell, Oklahoma, America's hometown." Let's discuss some of the demographics for Blackwell, Oklahoma. The median age in 2020 was 38 years old. The median income for a household was only $25,835. The median income for a family was $31,540. And for comparison, the U.S. median income in 2020 was $67,521. So Blackwell is about half of that. And about 17.1% of the population were below the poverty line. Blackwell has a full-service city government that includes electricity, water, sewage, recreation, police, and fire services. The police department has 17 full-time officers, a jail, and operates 24 hours a day. The Blackwell Fire Department is a full-time fire department, staffed with 20 paid firefighters, EMT, and paramedics, and also provides ambulance service to Blackwell and the surrounding communities. Several notable people have lived in Blackwell throughout the years. Jack and Jerry Briscoe, professional wrestlers and world heavyweight champion, have lived there. Jamie McGuire, best-selling romance novelist, and Brad Penny, Major League Baseball pitcher. Here we're driving up Main Street to the main downtown area of Blackwell. And up on the right-hand side, you're going to see the Larkin Hotel. A little bit about the Larkin Hotel. Towering over the intersection of Main Street and Oklahoma stands the Larkin Hotel, just here on the right. It features crumbling, its windows are boarded up, and it's splintering away. The Larkin, officially opened in May of 1924, now represents the decay of the American dream that Blackwell once flourished under. A brick behemoth that held 66 rooms, 42 baths, fine dining rooms, a private dining area, 3 suites, and 4 sample rooms that could be rented for the display of wares, with a telephone in each room, as well as 2 to 6-inch lights in each room. The hotel was seen as a necessity to the growing population of Blackwell, which, according to conflicting reports, was somewhere between 9,000 and 11,000 during the Roaring '20s, thanks to the railroad and oil booms. The hotel no doubt was an iconic piece of Blackwell history, and anybody who's anybody will tell you about its most famous guest, doomed aviator Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart did, in fact, stay at the Larkin in January of 1937. On her last flight across the nation, on her way to California before beginning her headline-grabbing flight around the world, Earhart landed in Blackwell to fix her airplane. She was staying at the Larkin, which had opened in the 1920s and was now the central hub of Blackwell. Earhart had rented a car and was soon stopped for speeding, a prank set up by her husband, George Putnam, with Blackwell police officer. Putnam was quite the scamp, and the two had an open marriage as to not restrict work or play for one another, but that's neither here nor there. Some 3,000 estimated fans showed up to greet Earhart, who signed autographs for several hours before retiring to her room for the night. She promised them that if they left their books and articles to be signed, she would do it before she left at 5 a.m. the next day. Earhart wasn't the only famous guest the Larkin had. Actress Katharine Hepburn was alleged to have been a guest at the Larkin, as well as Mae West. History places Hepburn in Blackwell, Oklahoma in the early 1950s during her tour of William Shakespeare's As You Like It. But it seems Blackwell might have been anything but how she liked it. Hepburn kept meticulously detailed notes of her life, which were all donated to the New York Public Library in 2007. Among these papers, the Oscar-winning actress detailed being stopped in Blackwell for speeding on her way from Tulsa to Wichita. She was taken by an officer of the Blackwell PD to a lawyer's office in Blackwell, where she said, "I have been arrested by this moron for speeding. I said I was sorry. I did not have a week to take off," in reference for not being able to find a judge to settle the dispute. While in the office, she signed her mink coat on a gas stove. "That coat must have cost you $700, the lawyer said, to which Hepburn responded, "Certainly not, $5,500. She said she was ashamed that she was cheap enough to answer him. She alleged that, "If I ever found an Oklahoma car in Connecticut, I would flatten all the tires." As you can see, the downtown Main Street in Blackwell is not flourishing, but one thing that stands to this day is Bob's Grill. Bob's Grill is there on the right-hand side, and it was established in 1950. Coming up on the right is the Electric Park Pavilion, and the pavilion was designed in 1912. It was built as a salute to electricity and features a 160-foot dome ceiling and an 800-seat auditorium. The building was once lined with over 500 lights on the dome, its 27 flagpoles with American flags, and its 22 arched windows. The Mission Spanish Revival-style building is made of brick and stucco and was dedicated on March 23, 1913. It also houses the Top of Oklahoma Historical Society Museum that displays artifacts from the land run, antiques, and local history. Coming up on the right is Blackwell's Public Library, and then we'll just continue to drive around a little more, see a little bit more of the small town, and then we'll take you over to the nice side of town. Coming up on the left is Blackwell's post office. After you've watched this, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below about how small towns like this can turn themselves around to once be prosperous and flourish again. I always find it interesting when you see nice homes like these over here to the right that are tucked in amongst these homes that, are basically falling down, and a lot of them are uninhabitable. This home here on the left corner, although it's still beautiful, I can only imagine how gorgeous it really was when it was first built. Let's discuss the crime rate for Blackwell, Oklahoma. In 2018, the crime rate was 299.22 per 100,000 population, and that was almost a 35% increase from 2017. The chance of becoming a victim of either violent or property crime in Blackwell is sadly 1 in 43. Based on FBI crime data, Blackwell is not one of the safest communities in America. Relative to Oklahoma, Blackwell has a crime rate that is higher than 63% of the state's cities and towns of all sizes. With that said, Blackwell Public Schools is an above-average public school district. It has 1,090 students in grades pre-K, K through 12, with a student-teacher ratio of 13:1. According to state test scores, 39% of students are at least proficient in math and 32% in reading. on the right was once Wolf's grocery store in the early 70s, and it was owned by my grandparents. The store has now been turned into a laundromat. This area that we're driving through would probably be considered the nicer area, definitely more middle class income. And then we'll get to the upper class area, which is very small in comparison to the rest of the town. And here we're arriving in the upscale neighborhood of Blackwell, Oklahoma. It's kind of funny. You can almost see that the roads look better. Obviously, they're much newer. The houses, in comparison to the average home price at $78,000 there in Blackwell, these houses are probably in the more $200,000 range. It's truly sad that this area of town is so small, and there's such a stark difference from these homes to the homes in the rest of the town. this side of town is Doolin Avenue, and this is what is coming off of I-75. Here you find some of the major stores such as Walmart, Dollar Tree, some pizza restaurants, a bank, a hotel, and a few more. So our journey has almost come to a close. We turn here on 177 South, and that takes us straight down to Main Street. And finally, no rural Oklahoma video would be complete without showing you the amazing wide open spaces and beautiful skies that we have. This was taken at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Please leave me your comments below. If you have any more history about Blackwell, I would love to hear that. Have a wonderful new year, and I hope to see you back soon.